we intend to proceed with impeachment proceedings if Kristi Noem is not fired. Kristi Noem is a complete and total embarrassment. She's a disgrace. And on top of all of that, she's presided over the cold-blooded killings of American citizens like Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy. Unacceptable. She should have never been confirmed. She needs to be put on ice permanently. She's got to go. Stephen Miller is the architect of Donald Trump's toxic immigration policies. He's a stone-cold liar. He's a bigot. He's a hateful individual. He's a malignant, unelected interloper. He needs to go as well.
Welcome back to Way Too Early, just after 5:30 here on the East Coast, 2:30 out west. I'm Ali Vitale, and that, of course, was Hakeem Jeffries, the top Democrat in the House, speaking to reporters on Capitol Hill yesterday, calling for Stephen Miller's firing and emphasizing his party's push to impeach DHS Secretary Kristi Noem if she's not fired by President Trump soon. Want to bring in Democratic Congressman Gabe Vasquez of New Mexico. He's also a member of the House Agriculture and Armed Services Committees. Congressman, thanks for getting up early with us. I wonder if you can talk about the dynamics around impeachment here, right? Because it's one that I've been fascinated by, because there are some Democrats who wear the banner of frontliner, which you also are, people in tight re-election battles because they're in purple districts. Some of them have said, we don't want to be known as the party that's just going to impeach the other side. And yet, in this instance, we're watching more Democrats come around on impeaching Kristi Noem, and you were one of the first Democrats to call for it. So talk about the way you're thinking about this, the morality and the politics side by side.
Well, I don't take impeachment lightly, but what we've seen with this agency is that the fish rots from the head down. And what we're seeing, this impunity on the streets of America, and certainly these two recent murders of American citizens, calls for real leadership. And what we've seen out of Secretary Noem is a refusal to accept the facts at the most basic level. Now, this agency has refused over 100 court orders. That's more court orders than any federal law enforcement agency ever. And that's just in January. So something has to change. And clearly, American people don't want to see these types of violent acts being carried out in their streets as they're commuting to work. So what we're seeing is lawlessness and chaos, when what American citizens want is law and order. And I don't believe Secretary Noem has the capacity or ability to lead this agency to the proper reform.
You know, I think some of the dynamics around impeachment were if all Democrats were on board for it. The other dynamic is even if all Democrats were, you wouldn't have the votes still to get it through. Do you think, because there are frontline Republicans as well, that the politics of this moment, that the White House is now negotiating directly with Senate Democrats? I mean, it's a marked shift in the way that they've handled these kinds of moments before. Do you think that there are Republicans there who would consider this step?
Well, I certainly would hope so, just given the facts and the actions of this agency over the last month, particularly in Minneapolis. Look, we've already seen some Republican senators come out and clearly say that she needs to step down, along with other Republican leaders outside of Congress, right? There's folks that clearly understand the value of this position, what is right and what is wrong, what is potentially going to happen in other American citizens. And I believe she's lost the confidence of the American people, if she ever had it. And I don't take impeachment lightly, just like I said. But look, she has to be held accountable. Greg Bovino was held accountable. Stephen Miller should be held accountable. These folks that are in charge of this rogue agency need to face the full consequences of their failures.
Yeah, different levers for accountability in each of those different positions, obviously, with Stephen Miller not being Senate confirmed or cabinet member. But I take your point. I think what's going to be telling is the ways that the president and the White House have managed to keep a vice grip on the House Republican conference. I think the Senate has shown a little bit more propensity to step out of line. It's different when you're a senator, but that moment is going to be tested. Yes, potentially around Noem and any looming impeachment, but then also in the immediate term, when you guys come back to town on Monday and do this vote on government funding, how do you think that this ends up playing out? That ultimately the continuing resolution gets passed on Monday and the next 2 weeks are haggling for what the DHS bill looks like? Game this out for us a little bit and what you think it might end up being.
Yeah, I believe we'll pass the funding package and negotiate the DHS funding bill over the next 2 weeks. Clearly, there are some very strong points on the Democratic side in terms of reform that we demand. at this moment. Certainly making sure that these agents are unmasked, just like any other law enforcement agency in the country, that we have mandatory use of body cameras, that they respond to court orders and are held accountable for their actions, and that they stop arresting American citizens. Look, these are basic things that I think all Americans can agree with, especially now as we are seeing that more and more American citizens, legal permanent residents, other folks with no violent histories that are legally allowed to be in this country are being swept up. And these cases continue to be before us in the media. That needs to be dealt with. And that is one of the frustrations of the American people, is that Congress has not seemed to be able to come together to work on just about anything in the last decade.
So just to be clear, if those changes are made, you would vote for the package?
Well, I have to see what the changes are.
But if they're in there, because Democrats have laid out what they want.
Well, I certainly want more than that. I think what we actually need in this country is to have some serious talks about immigration reform. I come from a border district. I come from an immigrant family. And at the foundation of why this is happening in the first place, this happened both under Democratic and Republican administrations, is the failure to have any comprehensive or any meaningful immigration reform. And as we look at the state of our economy, as we look at the rising cost of prices, there is a role for immigrants to play in this country. And so if we don't want to see these massive raids and sweeps, even if they are nonviolent, then we have to change the way that our system works. And it's our duty here in Congress. That's why the approval is so low from the American people, is because we have failed to address this issue. We punted it to the back. Now, certainly, health care, housing, quality of life issues, right now, they're top of mind for American citizens. But as you can see from what's playing out on the streets, we have to not just say, hey, this is a moment, a flash pan moment in history. No, we have to get back to the table and negotiate in good faith an actual plan for how we reform our immigration system. And I have a plan that I'm trying to sell to my Democratic colleagues.
I do feel skeptical that any kind of comprehensive package would pass in the midst of a midterm year. But certainly you would be adding your voice to a chorus of people who say that they would like Congress to finally find some success on this issue. It's been elusive for 15, 20 years now. Maybe this is a moment for some kind of bipartisanship. I'm interested in what the package ends up looking like, and if that gets Democrats like you ultimately on board for some guardrails, even though the system is far from perfect. We'll leave it there for now. Democratic Congressman Gabe Vasquez of New Mexico. See you on the Hill Monday, whenever votes get called, maybe earlier. Thank you for coming on in the meantime.